Yes, and we like that. Big shout out to our guy, Big Kirko. Wow. Episode 53 of Couch Coach Live. It's going to be pretty much a special edition here on Couch Coach Live as I recap my first ever experience covering the ACC Kickoff. It is by far one of my media bucket lists, and I've checked it off my list. What a fantastic few days I was there in Charlotte. It was great to reconnect with local guys in the area who do radio. Shout out to those guys. It was great linking up with old friends, old colleagues, and meet up with people that I've met online, but actually meet them in person. It was just fantastic. Three days that I was there in North Carolina. But we are back here in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, and we're back here. And I want to give you guys my brief takeaways and just a recap of my experience, my first ever experience of ACC Kickoff. As I said, once again, this was a bucket list item for me. This is one of the things that I kind of put on my ledger for the year of 2025, and was able to get the opportunity to get to the opportunity and being approved and being credentialed for this event. I met so many great people I talked about as far as, and then I'm back to mention the SIDs, the guys in the communication, guys and girls and ladies in the communication department for these fine ACC football schools, being able to connect with them and, with that. So without further ado, let's get into my takeaways from the ACC Kickoff of 2025. Before we hit you with our core list, we got to hit you with honorable mentions. When Couch Coach has a list, he's going to have honorable mentions. As you've seen in my top 5 quarterback list, we narrowed down to 5. We did 2 honorable mentions. And of course, in every list that we have, we always got to have an honorable mention. So let's get it started. Our first honorable mention, and it guys go to my Springer nephew, aka Kelvin Gilliam Jr., Virginia Tech. I've had a great opportunity to talk with the young fella. He's obviously from, as I mentioned earlier, former Highland Springs Springer standout, Gatorade Player of the Year. It's funny. We took a picture, and if you follow us on social media, on our Twitter page and also Facebook under Couch Coach Live, I did post that picture of me and Kelvin. And it's funny, people joked about my stature, how short I am, and how tall Kelvin is. And it's funny, I put in the caption that I look like a proud uncle, but low key I am in a sense, even though we're not blood. But as far as the we always talk about here the nephew uncle type of comparison here on Couch Coach Live. Obviously, a 19-year difference. Coming out of Highland Springs High School in the class of 2021 versus me being the elder statesman coming out at the beginning of the 21st century in 2002. And I had an opportunity to talk with Kelvin. Well, we'll get to that momentarily. But just hearing his personality on the press conference stage, and also with other content creators and reporters, talking to them, and even in my quick conversation with Kelvin, he's a guy that he will have a future in pretty much whatever he wants to do. Kelvin's one of those young men that I think the world is his oyster. I think once his professional career is over, he can run into a multitude of things. I definitely see like a coaching future for him, broadcasting. He has that he has an it factor when it comes to broadcast. I can see him breaking down plays like in the game. Pretty much anything that Kelvin will want to do in his career, I think he will be great in, and he will attack it with much vigor. So without further ado, here is my brief conversation with my Springer nephew, Kelvin Gilliam Jr. In the podium about Richmond as far as the talent pool in Richmond.
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on just the 804 and how rich a talent we got?
Man, I am blessed and I'm proud to be from the 804. So many guys that came before me, so many guys that are still even after me. Like, people talk about, Texas football or, Florida football. You go to Richmond, you're going to find some guys down there. And there's so many guys I can brag on. So many guys that I play with, so many guys that are a rival. Isaiah Page, who was at ODU, Mekhi Becton, who's now with the Chargers, Kayvon Wallace, all these different 804 guys who have had success. And now that I'm so quote-unquote added to that success now, so it's been great. So.
And what was your favorite moment at the Springs?
At the Springs, oh man, definitely got to be those moments where like Coach J and them, playing like before the game and stuff like that. But you really think about it, those championships.
All right, and that was a brief discussion that I had with my Springer nephew, Kelvin Gilliam Jr. He's going to ball out this year for Virginia Tech. He's going to be, I definitely envision him being a tremendous impact on this Hokies' success on the defense. So my next honorable mention is going to be Pitt coach Pat Narduzzi. So to kind of give you the backdrop of this takeaway, we probably think yourself, Pop-Tarts. What in the hell does Pop-Tarts have to do with with Pat Narduzzi? So in the first 2 days of the ACC Kickoff, we had the opportunity to the Pop-Tarts Bowl representatives were there and giving out Pop-Tarts as a part of what they call our snack break. So they gave us a multitude of different flavors. I was a huge fan of the cinnamon bun, the hot fudge sundae, and then they also had the frosted chocolate fudge Pop-Tarts, and those three I indulged in a little bit too much, which now I gotta kind of get myself back on track because I kind of indulged on those three delicious Pop-Tart flavors. So let's get Pat Narduzzi's take on his favorite Pop-Tart.
The absolute best right here. This all day. I'm not touching anything else except this right here. I'm on it. Good for me too. Have a good one, guys.
All right, appreciate it, Coach. All right, and that was Pat Narduzzi, the coach of the Pitt Panthers. I think they're another team that looks like they're gonna have they're gonna have a good season, and they'll be one of those teams where you might mess around come September, October, you're going to run into a buzzsaw with. So definitely huge shout out to Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers. So another takeaway, and I'll go now into our official takeaways from the ACC Kickoff. So one of the guys that really impressed me, and it's not more so necessarily something from like anything in particular. I think Fran Brown from Syracuse, he's one of those guys that he's just who he is. And I think that's the kind of the beauty thing of a Fran Brown, where he doesn't have he has a bravado about himself, but he's kind of one of those guys that can command the room. And he's one of those, and I really realized, like, I can see why these guys won 10 games last season. I think he's a guy that can really command the room. And he has a lot, to me, my personal opinion, him bringing in that D.A.R.T mentality, D.A.R.T, which is detailed, accountable, relentless, and tough. So the first clip I'm going to show you, and this is just when Fran Brown addressed the media. I thought it was a very poignant point in this minute clip that he discussed pretty much I wouldn't necessarily the philosophy, but pretty much the approach coming into the 2025 season. Take a look here.
For me, it's a conference of quarterbacks. For us, having the opportunity right now of having two really good quarterbacks, right? Having a chance to compete, that means a lot to us. A bunch of preeminent players throughout this conference that that are truly good and that can play on our football team and amongst the other teams. I think that we probably have the strongest non-conference schedule in the country, and being able to have that, being able to compete week in and week out, you'll just see a conference full of competitive guys, competitive coaches. I think we have some of the better coaches in the conference that we get an opportunity to compete against, and I'm happy to just be the man that has a chance to lead this program out this season to see what we can do, right? To show guys that we'll be here to compete and to play some physical, tough football.
Coach, thank you. We will start our microphones.
And that was Fran Brown from the Syracuse Orange. And like I said, even in this approach here, he's just one of those guys. He can man that room. He's just one of those guys that I can see that guys will run through a brick wall for a guy like a Coach Fran Brown. The next clip is going to be from Ricky Collins. He is the Syracuse. He is a transfer from LSU. I talked to him for a brief moment. I asked about pretty much what was the contributing factor of him transferring from LSU to Syracuse, and also what does the D.A.R.T mentality mean for him off the field. So take a look at this clip here.
And how passionate he is, I feel like we're going to gel well and be on the same page, and ultimately get to the ultimate goal that we both have, and that's what we all have, the whole team has.
And just talk about just as far as what is something that most fans don't know about as far as Coach Brown.
I feel like he's very out there. I feel like he's himself. Like, he shows who he is and he doesn't hide it. So I think they know how he is and what he delivers already.
All right. And then also, final question. As far as the D.A.R.T mentality, just talk about just your overall thoughts on the D.A.R.T mentality and how you implement it outside of the field.
You got to make it your way of life. You got to. That's how you got to be as a man. Not only in football, but like I said, as a man. He instills that in us day in and day out. In order to be in our program, you got to be D.A.R.T for sure.
All right. Appreciate you, Ricky.
Thank you.
All right.
And that was Ricky Collins, the sophomore quarterback from Syracuse by way of LSU. And like I said, and also if you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on the Couch Coach Live, we also had some interviews with, I think we had ended up doing 3 interviews with the Syracuse players, and they all talked about that D.A.R.T mentality. And it's one thing that is really enduring about Coach Brown since them buying into that D.A.R.T mentality. And it's kind of one of those things where they implemented that phraseology on the field and then also off the field. So they're living that lifestyle. They're living that detailed, accountable, relentless, and tough mentality on and off the field. And, you know, if you take a listen to the other interviews that we have done with those Syracuse players, that message is pretty much uniform. And I think that's one of those things that you look at and you're like, wow, this is going to be, there'll be another team like I talked about, like when I talk about Pitt, where they're going to be another team that teams are going to run into a bus off. And I think they can do almost similar like what they did last year, kind of wreck the ACC table. Obviously, you look at their win against Miami in later season, and I can see that type of situation again where they can kind of sneak up and beat a team on a random day. So here's another team where, hey, if you go up to Western New York, you better go and pack a lunch because Fran Brown's going to have that team ready to play week in and week out. So, and one of the privileges of covering the ACC Media Day, aka ACC Kickoff, I had an opportunity to vote for my All-American team, how I predict the teams will finish, and Player of the Year for pretty much essentially for the preseason. So now to kind of tip off my hand, which I will have my Couch Coach Lab All ACC team. We'll have that article out probably about midweek. So probably expect that about Wednesday or Thursday, pretty much just in time when the ACC release our compiled list of All-Americans. So One of my guys that made my Couch Coach Live All-American was Keylan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. This guy is a dog. He is someone that, and I even, and when you will hear his interview momentarily, after we were done, and I wish I would have recorded this part, but I dapped him up and I said, look here, man, you will make a 40-year-old man like myself run through a brick wall. I may not have that athletic ability, but I'm gonna tell you, in that little 1 minute instance that me and Keylan had, I would have ran for a brick wall for that young fellow. But without further ado, let's take a listen to one of the members of the Couch Coach Live All ACC team, Keylan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Also, first team All ACC. Just talk about last season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good season. I think, the accolades are cool. They're fine, but I think we judge, as an offensive lineman, you can judge by your team's success, how well you run the ball, how well you blitz the quarterback, and how many games you win out. I think we did just enough in that category, but, I mean, obviously it's always good to be recognized a little bit.
And also, pretty much, guys, third nationally in fewer sacks, 0.69 sacks per game. Just talk about just your offense, that unit, that O-line unit.
Yeah, I think we blocked really well last year. We had really good guys up front. We had a lot of chemistry together. A lot of people that played a lot of ball. We did a really good job. I think we definitely still left some meat on the bone. There were some games, some plays we could have definitely had back. Could have had a better season, but I think we did a good job.
And one final question for you, Keylan. I just talked to Malik just a few minutes ago. He just talked about like your leadership and just as far as being that leader for your unit. Just talk about just how is your leadership example? How do you
Yeah, I think I just try to be the same person every day. I'm a guy that's going to show up and give it my all, so I expect you to give it your all. If you ain't giving me your all, then there's some stuff to be said about that, right? We want to win a championship. That's what we're doing here. And if you tell me you want to win a championship, well, I'm going to hold you to that standard every day, every second. And if you don't want to be held to that standard, then honestly, we don't need you on this team because we're going one way and the whole ship's going that way. And if you're not on the boat, then you'll have to figure it out. So I think that's how I attack leadership.
Yeah. And let's see. Little audio was a little bit off, but pretty much you get the gist of what Keylan Rutledge is all about. He's a no-nonsense guy as a leader of this Georgia Tech team. As we mentioned, probably one of the best offensive lines cumulatively in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And Keylan is pretty much running the charge there at Georgia Tech. They're another team that's definitely going to be in that mix. You look at, they had some great wins last week. Not last week, but last year. And I'm really good curious. I think the biggest game for them is going to be that first game against Colorado. I definitely want to see how they play against that type of team. So Georgia Tech is going to surprise a lot of people, obviously, with a player like Haynes King. I definitely think he's going to be another one that potentially kind of takes that leap, especially with this offensive lineman. And Georgia Tech is another one, as we mentioned, and I really can make the case for just about any team in the ACC where they can shake up things in the ACC, just like they did as well. They had a great win over Miami in November. That pretty much kind of started somewhat of the downward spiral at the end for Miami. So you look at that, that was a huge win for them. So staying in my Couch Coach Live All ACC team, we definitely got to bring it to Cal Lewis, the linebacker from Pitt. As we just talked about earlier, one of the honorable mentions, and we talked about his coach, Pat Narduzzi, and his brown, what is it? It is the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts. But we talked about as far as what Pat Narduzzi eats on the field. We got to talk about what Cal Lewis eats on the field. It's about a 2-minute video, but watch to the end. By far, probably the most funniest sound bites to date of my coverage of the ACC kickoff. And we're going to roll that beautiful beam footage for our Couch Coach Live All-American Cal Lewis.
All ACC last season.
It was cool, I got, bigger goals now, just going first round, All-American, just keep going steady with the path.
Right. And just what has been some takeaways from the spring that kind of make you optimistic about this upcoming season?
Takeaways from spring?
Yeah, like anything, like as far as like the unit itself, like anything that you've seen from this team that make you think, like, we did something well this spring to say, hey, it's going to carry over in the fall.
Play caller, just understand the play call, coaches switching up the play call a little bit more to get us in even more of a better position to make a play, make a pick, or punching the ball out. So definitely watch out for more punch outs by me. Definitely get a lot more first fumbles, like TJ Watt be doing, and just get better than that.
And speaking of like TJ Watt, what have you, and what have you, and who do you model your game after in the sense, as far as from a pro level or just any level?
It's hard for me to model my game after anybody right now. So I just wing it. Growing up, I definitely watched Will Pepper. He's from my city, always wanted to be. So I like him. He used to be able to do everything. So now I'm around like his size, a little bigger, doing everything too. So that's cool.
And one more question: what's your go-to pregame meal and pregame song?
I don't eat before a game. I eat on the field. Pregame song. I listen to. If you know, Jersey Club. That get me up.
So what do you eat on the field? Okay. All right. Thanks, man.
And that was one of those, you always have, to me, I look at that moment, it's kind of like when someone slapped you in the face, you're like, what just happened here? And I'm like, because if you notice, when I asked the first time, and I said, "What's your pregame meal?" He said, He said, "I don't eat before the game. I eat on the field." And that was like the slap moment. Like, okay, what's happened? And then I end up asking it again. Like, well, what do you eat? What do you eat on the field? And then obviously he gave us that response. But that was such a great answer from him. Definitely huge shout out to Cal Lewis. He's gonna have an excellent year. Yet again for the Pitt Panthers, like I talked about when we talked about Pat Narduzzi. Another one. You can run to a bus out one random Saturday afternoon. In this conference, you're going to have to pack your lunch every single week when you strap on the helmet. So another interesting one takeaway was Mike Norvell. So when I missed Tuesday's session, so I went on Wednesday and Thursday. So I missed the first day, but I was able to go on the Wednesday edition and Thursday edition. Now, imagine Florida State was first to speak on the podium on the Wednesday session. So this was my first time in the press conference room, and man, was I in for a treat with Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell, as we all know, last year was 2-10. Had a lot of expectations last year following the 2023 season. Many people thought there was going to be somewhat of a carryover effect, considering the fact they were kind of snubbed, and at the time was the final college football playoff that only included 4 teams. So a lot there. But Mike Norvell addressed the media. This was his response, pretty much his outlook going to the season. To me, in my personal opinion, he brought the energy. I really have some good expectations for this Florida State team. Without further ado, let's check that footage that I have from Mike Norvell's opening presser on day 2 of the ACC kickoff. And let's roll that footage.
The
have done a wonderful job, throughout this offseason of being great leaders, of being the willingness to be the example of what we want it to look like on a daily basis, and excited for the expectation for all things that are ahead this season. As we've gone into this offseason, it has been about bringing that daily edge, that desperation to go win on a daily basis. And in everything that we do, from whether it is in the weight room, whether it's on the field, meeting room, in the classroom, we wanted that sense of competition. And we wanted every day, right, to see guys that are willing to rise to the challenge to be their best. And this football team has done it. Whatever we put in front of them, right, whether it was academically coming off our spring semester, we had the best team GPA ever in program history. Right? They answered the call when it came to what we wanted them to do academically. Whether it was in the weight room or tour duty, we challenged them at new levels. Right? That it was probably some of the hardest workouts that we've ever had. Right? And to see those guys embrace that with us, literally with a smile on their face, knowing there was an opportunity to compete, to go get better. Just to see the newcomers, the guys that have been a part of the program, to see them all work together. Right, to be able to set the foundation for what this football team's going to be. Because all that we have is this season that's ahead. Right? And when you look through the past few years, we've accomplished some great things. We've experienced the highest of highs, and we've also found ourselves in a valley. We faced some disappointments. Right? But every part of it has come back to our response. And this team and this season that's ahead, I've got great expectations. Got a lot of confidence because I've watched the work. I've seen the investment. Right? I'm really feel proud and grateful for the coaches and the new leaders that we have within our coaching staff. Being able to have two of the best coordinators in college football, a couple of the best football minds that this game has. And Coach Malzahn and Coach White have done a wonderful job pouring into our players. Being able to establish a foundation throughout the course of the spring and be able to build concepts and a plan in place that are built for the great playmakers that we have. And so we're excited for all things that are ahead. It's an exciting time in Tallahassee. We got a great kickoff here August 30th with Alabama coming into town, and this football team, it is hungry. Right, it is bringing that daily edge in all things that we're doing, and there's a lot of wonderful things around our program. We have a newly renovated Doak Campbell Stadium, which we're so excited to be able to be at its full capacity. All right, our football-only facility that we'll be moving into here this fall. I do want to take a moment just to thank our administration, starting with President McCullough, his leadership, his vision, his continued push. To our AD, Michael Alford, to our board of trustees, we have an incredible group. Our chairman of the board, Peter Collins, and the work that they have pushed to continue to elevate our program in this new day of college athletics. I'm just so grateful for the support that we have and the investments that have been made from all of our boosters.
All right. And that was Mike Norvell, coach of Florida State. They're another one that curious how this team will be. If you looked at it last year, they were predicted to finish first in the ACC. And obviously we knew they pretty much was 2-10 last season. They got a huge tax against Alabama, as he mentioned, Mike Norvell mentioned, on August the 30th on Labor Day weekend. So definitely want to see that'll be a great barometer to see what this Florida State team looks on that Memorial Day. Oh, let's say Memorial Day. Labor Day weekend showdown. Let's do that. So my final takeaway is we gotta talk about the most decorated coach pretty much in the game, in professional and in college, and the most polarizing professional coach now heads to the coaching ranks. And the Bill Belichick era begins. And as I mentioned, the pandemonium of Bill Belichick is amazing. It's something that you really can't explain. So I'm gonna try to do the best to kind of explain my perspective of the Bill Belichick experience at ACC Kickoff. So essentially, this was pretty much Bill Belichick's kind of first official kind of meeting with the media. Obviously, with the exception of the introductory press, he didn't talk during the spring. So this is pretty much his first kind of press outing as far as detailing the details of the 2025 season. So, so something like I said, if you look at the video that we had with Mike Norvell, that was a press conference stage. So I'm going to kind of give you essentially 4 reference points in a sense. So point A was where Mike Norvell, where you have that the press conference room. Point B is right next to each other. That's where you see the interviews that I had with Keylan, Rutledge, Cal Lewis. Also, where you see me with Kelvin Gilliam Jr. That is point B, what they call like the breakout room. So they're really right next to each other. C is kind of that mid area where you see where Pat Narduzzi was eating that Pop-Tart. That's pretty much where like the media workrooms and what have you. So that's point C. And then from point C to D, there's like some little areas. And pretty much think of point D as like the restroom. So that's like the end point. So going to that press room, because Bill Belichick was second to last on Thursday. Typically in that press conference room, I want to say you maybe have like 5 or 6 rows with tables and chairs. And then you also have an area of just chairs singularly, maybe about 6 rows deep, about 5, 6 rows deep. And the tables and chairs, they have rows of it. So it's going up and down this row. So it's across room. So it's two kind of, when you think about it, it's the left side and the right side. So both have tables and chairs, maybe about 6 rows, tables and chairs, and then about 7, 8-ish chairs singularly. Most of the press conferences rooms wasn't really as packed. Maybe like Clemson might have been like kind of a second. But when Bill Belichick came, essentially that place was packed. You couldn't even get a seat. And there was even people standing on the wall. It was that crazy. So the video I'm going to show you, it's not necessarily in the press room, but this is an area where I mentioned pretty much from point C to D. Remember, I told you the C where Pat Narduzzi was eating the Pop-Tart, and that's actually where the media workrooms in that area as well too. And then point D is the bathroom. So that midpoint between C and D, there was a line, essentially, pretty much a line from point A to where the beginning of that press conference room, all the way almost to like past C, where we had like Pat Narduzzi eating that Pop-Tart. Lined up with people, because basically Bill Belichick was pretty much in that center between C and D, and like this is where he did a Sports Center interview. And if you watch the Sports Center interview, and I'll show you the location of it, it's going to just a brief, like kind of where he's at. So basically that's where he was. So pretty much any point from that point all the way to point A was pretty much lined up with people, because a lot of people was ready for him. And he did this what the video I'm going to show you, about like 1:40, maybe like 20 minutes before he's supposed to sit to be on the press conference stage, which we use reference point as point A. So he goes in there. So he's there. People are lined up because they want to get that shot of Bill walking to it. And then coincidentally, the funny thing about it is Bill came from the side. So Bill came from another end. So Bill didn't come in the front like everybody else did, but Bill came from the side. So that was kind of interesting of how, because we were all looking like, okay, we don't see Bill on the right. Bill came from the left. And we're like, oh, okay. Bill came from the left. So this is why I'm going to show you this clip of Bill Belichick. And this is when he's talking to Sports Center. And if you've seen that interview like Thursday, you'll see like kind of people walking around. That's pretty much kind of how that situation was. But the Bill Belichick era is going to be really interesting. And this is just a small taste a morsel of a huge chocolate chip that this Bill Belichick impact in Chapel Hill will be. So let's roll that quick footage of Billy B. So, manage you, as we talked about it, kind of give you a kind of synopsis yet again. Basically, like when you see where that gentleman was sit kind of like in front, there was like a line pretty much a little bit further to him, like a little bit to the left, and it went all the way to reference point A, which was the press conference room. So Bill Belichick, he bought him out, as young folks to say, he bought him out. But yeah, so this wraps up my takeaways from my first ever experience at the ACC Kickoff. Once again, it was such a great honor to be a part of this conference, a conference that I've loved since I was a child, especially being a kid from the Mid-Atlantic and born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. ACC is essentially the conference that I have followed since I have loved sports since the mid-90s. And to be a part of this conference and being recognized as a member of the media is something that never been my wildest dreams. As a kid, a 12-year-old kid that loved everything about the ACC, football, basketball. The 12-year-old me would have never thought that those 2 days in Charlotte would have even been possible. And it's just one of those things where it's just like I'm just thankful. I'm a man of faith. I thank the Lord every day for giving me an opportunity to live out my dreams, live out my passions. Something that I've been wanting to do since I was 12 years old. I know the 12-year-old in me probably be out here, being really happy that 28 years later at 40 that he had his opportunity. So this wraps up episode 353, man. We will catch you guys next week as we start our NFL previews, our 12th edition of the Couch Coach Live NFL predictions /previews. So we'll do our NFL preview starting next week. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Couch Coach Live, and we'll see you guys on episode 354, and we're